Before I left my apartment in the Boston suburbs, I found myself thinking about what my best friend Samantha had told me. Don't go to Thanksgiving this year. No one in that house is on your side. I thought I understood what she meant. Welcome home, Kelly, my mother said with a smile. But there was no warmth behind it. It felt like she was trying to mimic the expression rather than feeling it. Her eyes didn't quite meet mine, they flicked away, as if looking through me. My father folded his newspaper carefully, looked up, and gave me a silent nod. Nothing more. As if my arrival was nothing out of the ordinary, not something worth reacting to. My sister Catherine was sprawled across the couch, her eyes locked onto her phone screen. She didn't even flinch when I walked into the room, either pretending not to notice me or refusing to acknowledge I was there at all. I held out the box of pumpkin pie with both hands. It was the same pie I baked every year, my own quiet gift to the family. But no one reached for it. In the awkward silence, my mother stood up, took the pie without saying a word, and placed it on the far corner of the table with the gentlest touch, like she was handling something invisible. Dinner began in a strained silence. As I sipped from my glass, I glanced at Catherine. She carried on as if nothing had happened. But I couldn't forget the email I received last month from a man I didn't know. Should I say something now? Maybe there was more to her side of the story. But no matter how many times I tried to convince myself, I couldn't shake his silent desperation from my mind. Pretending to eat, I asked myself quietly. Then I placed my napkin on my lap and took a deep breath. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I need to talk to you all, I said. Everyone looked up. My father furrowed his brow. Catherine let out an annoyed sigh. A man claiming to be Catherine's fiancé reached out to me recently. He says he lent her a large sum of money, and now she's completely ghosted him. Catherine froze mid-motion. The silver spoon slipped from her hand and clinked against the edge of her plate. I could feel the room freeze. My mother went still, staring at me like time had stopped. But her eyes weren't filled with shock, they were filled with guilt. She wanted to deny it, but couldn't. My father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, and muttered, "And?" The word landed with a dull thud in my chest. For a moment I thought I must have misheard. "And?" I asked softly, but firmly. He looked at me like I was an annoying dat. "It's none of your concern." I was speechless for a second. But then the anger and hurt welled up. None of my concern? Do you really think that? I kept my voice steady, but I let the emotion spill. The man who claimed to be Catherine's fiancé even contacted me at my workplace. I had to read that message in the middle of my shift. Do you know how humiliating that was? And on top of that, I already paid back part of the loan for her. Over $10,000. I reached into my bag, pulled out my notebook, and placed a copy of the payment record in the center of the table. Bank transfers, amounts, dates, everything clearly printed. No one moved, except Catherine, who glanced at the papers. But she didn't look rattled. In fact, she smirked slightly as if nothing were wrong. "Don't be ridiculous. I never borrowed anything. He gave me that money. He said it was a gift. What a fool got all worked up on his own and then got hurt all by himself." The casual cruelty in her voice made something boil inside me. "Catherine," I shouted, not out of anger, out of heartbreak. I wanted to believe in her. I hoped she'd change. But it all came crashing down. Do you even understand what you're doing? This isn't the first time. You've been in trouble over money for months now, borrowing with no plan to repay, hiding it from everyone. I drew another breath, forcing myself to say the next part. I know about the gambling addiction. I saw the accounts, the online casinos. I paid some of those credit card bills. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Catherine shrugged and looked away. No one asked you to. Don't act like I owe you anything. I'm done. My voice was quiet, but it trembled not from rage, but from the pain of breaking away. I wasn't born into this family to clean up after you. The room was completely silent. No one said a word. Only the payment statement on the table spoke truth that now lay bare. Then suddenly, my father slammed his napkin onto the table. You're no longer part of this family. Get out. I was speechless. I had paid more toward this house than anyone else in this family. And now I was being thrown out like this? All you know how to do is hurt Catherine just to feel important. I was trying to protect this family. I cleaned up her messes so none of this would fall on you. That's just self-righteousness, he spat. You're not family anymore. And don't you dare set foot in this house again. My mother said nothing. She just stared into her cold soup. Catherine gave a faint, smug smile. I understand, I said quietly. I stood up, slipped on my coat, and gently picked up the box of pie I had brought. As I opened the front door, I heard my father's low voice behind me. We never counted on you anyway. Samantha's words echoed in my chest. I shouldn't have come. But this time, I felt no regret. Because now I wasn't running away, I was drawing a line. The morning after Thanksgiving, I sat at my computer, having spent the night wide awake. A hot cup of black coffee steamed beside me. On my screen was the mortgage portal I had checked every month for the last 10 years. To make sure payments were on time, to track the loan balance, to monitor any change in interest. I had signed as a co-signer on the mortgage under my parents' names when I was 24. This is your duty as a family member, my father had said. Fresh out of grad school, I pushed myself to live up to their expectations. My sister kept causing problems and my mother had whispered, "You're the only one I can count on." That was enough to sway me. So I began covering over $2,000 a month in payments. I was never once thanked. Still, I kept paying because we were family, because I believed I couldn't walk away. I was the invisible backbone. When the utilities couldn't be paid, when the car broke down, when Catherine racked up gambling debts, I quietly handled it all behind the scenes. It wasn't about recognition. I just wanted to belong. But somewhere along the way, I became the outsider in my own family. When I asked about the mortgage statements, my father frowned and said, "That's none of your business." When I raised concerns about Catherine's boyfriend, my mother scolded me for being too harsh. Slowly, the Thanksgiving and Christmas invites grew vague. One day, my seat at the table was gone. So was my name from their conversations. The only place I had ever truly believed I belonged, my family had begun to quietly crumble beneath me the moment I started asking for the truth. But last night, when I heard my father's words, something snapped. It felt like a cord I didn't even know I was still holding on to had finally broken. and I realized I didn't even know who I was paying for anymore. I began lining up the documents on my desk. The mortgage contract, payment records, tax documents. Beside them, an email from Samantha, who also happened to be a lawyer, was open on my screen. Don't act on emotion. Act on what's legally sound. You're a co-signer, not the primary borrower. You can request to be released from liability. I've drafted a formal statement you can use. Just fill it in and send it as soon as possible. I took a deep breath and began filling out the attached template. I rewrote it several times, choosing every word carefully. At last, a formal letter was complete. Subject: request for formal release from loan guarantee obligations. I signed it, saved it as a PDF, and uploaded it to the financial institution's online portal. When I pressed the submit button, something stirred inside me. A trace of guilt, maybe? But I looked at the 10 years of payment history. Roughly $240,000. I had carried 80% of that mortgage alone. Was it ever my duty to use that money to cover Catherine's gambling and emotional cons? No. I would no longer carry the weight of other people's choices. Well done, Kelly, I whispered to myself. No one else might say it, but I would, for myself. That afternoon my phone rang. It was Samantha. Did you send it? Yes, just now. You did good. That one action just changed your life. You can rest easy now. I closed my eyes and leaned back in my chair. It's strange, I murmured. The weight's supposed to be off my shoulders, but my chest still feels heavy. That's only natural, Samantha said gently. You've spent your whole life trying to be the good daughter. Guilt becomes a habit. But realizing that it came from a false sense of duty, that's a huge step. Samantha always knew how to pull me back to reality. She was the only one who truly understood me. And honestly, what happened at Thanksgiving? It was awful. I can't believe your mom just sat there in silence. She's always been like that. She can't stand up to my father. She looked like she understood me, but in the end, she said nothing. Are you ready for what comes next? I gave a small nod. Yes, I've decided. I'm going to fully break away from my family. After I hung up, I pulled up the notification letter I had sent once more. Then I shut down the computer and sank into the living room couch. The only sound in the quiet room was the soft hum of the heater. There had never been warmth in my family's home. But here, in this space I'd built myself, there was. Peace no one could trample. A safety I had created with my own hands. This was home now. As Christmas drew closer, the city of Boston lit up with festive lights. During my commute, I found small comfort in the trees and wreaths glimmering through the windows. But that peace shattered the moment I found the red envelope in my mailbox. It was from my parents' house, sent under my mother's name. I took a deep breath and opened it. Inside was a handwritten Christmas card. But on the back, in small letters, it read, "It looks like the mortgage payment is overdue. December hasn't been paid. The bank contacted us. Please take care of it soon." A bill disguised as a Christmas greeting. I gently folded the letter and placed it back into the envelope, setting it quietly on the table. The cover, adorned with gold and red ribbon, read Merry Christmas, but it felt hollow. cruel even. Like a threat wrapped in holiday cheer. From that day on, the phone started ringing. Blocked numbers. My parents' number. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, messages and notifications began flooding in. On Facebook, my mother had posted something that felt like a public accusation. Helping your family should be second nature. After 10 years of support, to suddenly turn so cold it's heartbreaking. Beneath her words was a firm belief that she was the victim. It was clear she had no interest in acknowledging my pain or the sacrifices I had made. The comments poured in. So sad. What happened to your daughter? I bit my lip. People who didn't know the truth were judging me as ungrateful. But I didn't have the energy to defend myself. I didn't want to give up any more of my time or my emotions. Not long after, an official notice arrived from the bank. 30-day delinquency on mortgage payment. It warned that if the payment remained overdue, the situation would escalate -60 days, 90 days, foreclosure. I filed the letter and immediately called Samantha. The notice came just like we expected. Her voice was calm over the phone. Expected. Don't panic, Kelly. Your release from the guarantor contract should already be processed. The system probably hasn't caught up yet. I'll confirm it on my end. But the posts, the emails, they're getting worse. My mom's asking if I plan to just let them lose the house. She's acting like I destroyed everything. You didn't destroy it, Samantha said. It was broken from the start. You were just the one holding it all together. Her words brought tears to my eyes again. But I didn't want to cry. I hadn't come this far to collapse now. I had finally taken control of my life for me. Then, one night, I heard from a college friend. Catherine had been talking about me spreading lies. She's cold. She ran off to save herself. She never really cared about us. I was just her pawn. To protect her own reputation, she had cast me as the villain. The next morning, an anonymous message arrived on Instagram. People like you preaching about helping others? What a joke. My profile still held old photos, carefully curated posts that painted me as a polished, successful woman. But no one could see the struggle behind it, the pain, the sacrifices. And Catherine's sweet words and theatrics had fooled so many. I can't take this anymore. I slammed my laptop shut and collapsed onto the couch. But then my eyes landed on a photo on the wall. Samantha and me, on college graduation day. Behind us was a banner, "The future is yours to choose." Back then, I was still becoming who I am, still figuring it out. But now I think I finally understand what those words meant. The future isn't something you're given. It's something you protect, something you build with your own hands. I took a deep breath and stood up. I wasn't going to live in fear of family messages anymore. This time, it was my turn. The first weekend of the new year, I visited Samantha's office. Tucked into a corner of a Boston townhouse, her law office was a perfect blend of elegance and quiet strength. As the receptionist guided me in, Samantha looked up from a stack of documents and smiled the moment she saw me. "I'm so glad you came. I actually had something I wanted to discuss." I nodded and sank into the chair across from her. Any lingering trace of holiday cheer was long gone. If anything, coming here made my resolve feel tangible for the first time. At this point, things are escalating, she said. The online defamation, the false reports to the mortgage lender were at a stage where we can start taking legal action. She slid a set of papers toward me. First, we'll send a formal cease and desist letter. It's in your name, and it demands that your father, mother, and Catherine cease all direct or indirect contact immediately. I scanned the document, exhaling slowly. Do we really have to go this far? They see your silence as compliance, Kelly. That's why you have to make your boundaries unmistakably clear. I picked up the pen and signed my name. Kelly Harrison. Just that one signature, yet something shifted inside me. Until now, I'd been fighting to protect others. Now, I was standing for my own dignity. This next one is a letter to the mortgage company, Samantha continued. There's a chance your release as guarantor hasn't been fully processed. I'll send this under my name to confirm. Despite the legal pressure mounting around me, I felt something I hadn't in years: calm. Samantha had my back. For so long I'd been alone in my family, but now I had someone standing beside me. I've also preserved evidence of the online harassment, she added. The altered posts, the impersonation accounts, the threatening messages, we've archived everything. Thank you. Really. Kelly, this isn't just a legal battle. It's about reclaiming your life, drawing a line with your own hand. That's what matters most. Her words echoed in me. I wasn't angry at my family. I didn't hate them. I just wanted to finally reclaim my worth. That was all. The following week, Samantha mailed 3 letters by certified post. One to my father, one to my mother, one to Catherine. Each outlined the formal demand to stop harassment, prohibit further financial contact, and acknowledge that I was no longer responsible for any financial obligations tied to them. A few days later, the first reaction came from Catherine. She flooded her Instagram stories with vague posts clearly aimed at me. Some people are just ice cold, don't deserve to be called family. If all you see is money, you're not someone I want to call my sister. Samantha acted quickly. She submitted the screenshots and reported the posts to the platform. She also issued a written warning that we were prepared to pursue defamation if needed. Shortly after Catherine's account went private, the indirect jabs disappeared. Then came my mother's response. A handwritten letter delivered to my apartment. Catherine has her issues, but do you really have to shut us out? We're family, we can work things out. Don't drag lawyers into this. I sat in silence for a while after reading it. If we could have worked things out, none of this would have happened. I picked up my phone and called Samantha. My mom sent a letter. She's asking me not to use lawyers. Classic move. They don't want outsiders involved in family matters because they want to stay in control. They'll use guilt when truth gets uncomfortable. But Kelly, you've done more than enough. It's time to start living for yourself. I nodded, holding on to her words. From my father there was nothing. But that, too, felt expected. He ruled with silence, escaped through silence. That was his version of parenting. My legal notices had finally drawn the line. Not with emotions, with documents and law. That was the only language that could end a conversation that had never truly begun. I wasn't waiting for anyone's approval anymore. From now on, I would give that approval to myself. One morning in July, I unlocked the door to my new office. A quiet street just outside Boston. A ground floor space that used to be an art gallery. After months of renovation, it was finally ready to open. The sign outside read, "Phoenix Financial Freedom." A place for those who, like me, wanted to rebuild their lives from the ashes. And this was the very first step. The phone rang. It was Samantha. "It's finally here. Are you nervous?" "A little. But strangely, I'm not scared. That's how you know this path is truly yours. And Kelly, the person you are now, she can handle anything." I smiled and nodded. The past 6 months had completely rewritten how I saw the world and myself. I used to believe I had to earn love, that my worth was tied to how much my family needed me. I tried to be useful to my father, live up to my mother's expectations, and clean up after Catherine's messes just to hold on to a place in the family. But they never thanked me. All I ever received was silence and the suffocating weight of expectation. Even so, I had finally realized that my worth was not defined by anyone else's needs. Even when it comes to family, if there is no respect, you have the right and the responsibility to reevaluate the relationship. Starting this company wasn't just a business move. It was the redefinition of who I was. Over these past few months, I'd spoken with so many women. A wife forced to carry her ex-husband's debt after divorce. A single mother in her 40s, still financially controlled by her toxic parents. A corporate woman who had sacrificed her career under the crushing weight of family expectation. In their stories, I saw pieces of myself over and over again. And that's why I didn't want to be just a financial planner. I wanted to be someone who helped people draw the line. Because financial freedom is emotional freedom. The ability to choose without being exploited or dependent, that's what I wanted to give others. That afternoon, my first client walked through the door. She was in her early 30s, with faint dark circles under her eyes, a childcare bag on one arm, and a copy of divorce paperwork in the other. "I don't even know where to start." She said it through quiet tears. I handed her a tissue. "You can start wherever you'd like. Here, you are the subject of the story." My voice surprised even me, steady, calm, and sure. Before, someone else's pain would have crushed me. But not now. I can stand on my own now. That's why I can stand beside someone in pain without being pulled under by it. As dusk settled in, I returned to my desk and began drafting the day's report. Outside the window, the late summer wind rustled the leaves. Just then, a new email arrived on my phone. The sender, my mother. Subject, "I just hope you're doing okay." I stared at the screen without touching it. Should I open it? Or maybe I didn't need to anymore. I didn't have an answer right away. But a few minutes later, I quietly archived the message. The past could stay recorded. But I no longer had to be ruled by it. As if affirming that, my eyes fell on a card on my desk emblazoned with my company's logo. "Kelly, you made it." The voice belonged to Samantha. She had stopped by in the early evening, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thank you. I just wrapped up." We sat side by side, sipping quietly and looking out the window. "So, what do you want to do now?" Samantha asked. I thought for a moment, then answered clearly. "I want to take back the time and energy I lost to the past and use it to build something for this version of me." That truly was my new beginning. Later, I heard bits and pieces about what happened to the family I once bent over backward for. Quietly, but undeniably, they had started to fall apart. My parents, unable to get by on pension alone, fell deeper into debt, struggling with unpaid mortgage balances and living expenses. Eventually, overdue property taxes caught up with them, and they were forced to let go of the old, worn house they'd lived in for decades. My father, who once prided himself on needing no one, was now consumed by repayment schedules and a life stripped to bare essentials. And Catherine, she was facing multiple lawsuits from men she had deceived. The facade she once held up so boldly had finally crumbled. Perhaps, when there was no one left to help, they finally began to understand what their actions had meant. But I felt no sadness. Each of them had made their own choices. Each of them was now living with the outcome. And me. I no longer lived to meet anyone else's expectations. I had chosen to live my own life on my own terms.